Hi guys, my name is Vanya, coming from Studio Incognito. Today's art demo is part of a series called Backyard Birds and Blooms. It is in support by the Massachusetts Cultural Council and the Fall River Cultural Council, which is a division of the Massachusetts Cultural Council. This is a sequel. In the past few years I've done lots of birds, trying to bring awareness to our surroundings and the environment and how we can make a difference, and what the birds do as well. So today we're going to be doing a dark-eyed junco. It's mostly an eastern bird, but it does migrate. There are different varieties as well, but the varieties that vary in color are mostly from the western part of the world. So to get started, I'm going to let you know what we have on our palette. And on the palette today, we have some French ultramarine, alizarin, magenta, a dark red, some cadmium reds and lights, cadmium orange, and cadmium yellows, dark and light. And then we also have a Payne's gray, burnt umber, raw umber, burnt sienna, and a raw sienna, some Naples yellow, sap green, a little bit of iridium, titanium white. I like using the titanium white, it just has a little bit more opacity than a zinc white or a mixing white. I do have some light gray already previously mixed up. And then I also have, for brush cleaner, I am using a Terpenoid all natural. It's non-toxic. It smells like oranges. I have a variety of brushes. I have a variety of flats varying in size. I have some filberts varying in size, and those are slightly rounded at the top, as you can see them. I have some angles as well, variety in size. And then I have some mini micros. That's just for doing like fine details, sometimes around the beak or the eyes. A couple of palette knives for mixing. So today I'm using a reference, I'm using a photo. And this little fella is sitting, he's perched on a branch, and it's kind of a gray day for him. It's snowing. So the background is going to be pretty much like a gray background, maybe some snowflakes. These fellas they're interesting. They're very small. They love feeders. They kind of hop around. They don't really like walk around a lot. They tend to hop and skip. They shuffle their feet sometimes through the leaves. They're probably looking for seeds. But I've already done an outline of our junco, so I'm going to pull the camera in so you can get a better view. And I've kind of used a graphite, a soft graphite, to outline. It does have a little bit of staining, so I do a very, very light outline. And the only reason I'm doing an outline is for you. I generally don't make an outline when I'm doing it for pleasure. So let's get started. Oh yes, and I also have some microfiber cloths. The microfiber cloths, I'll use these. They're preferred because they don't leave lint behind. So now to start, I always like to kind of rinse and soften my brushes just to get all the little fine particles that might be left behind, some residue from past paint, or loose hairs. As the brushes get older, sometimes I get some loose hairs. You can always fix them, you can always crimp them with a pair of pliers right here. Alright, so let's move the camera in. It's going to get a little bit noisy just while I move the camera. Get a better view of that for you. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good view. Alrighty, so I'm going to start off by using a 1/4 inch flat, and as you can see in comparison to my finger, soften that up a bit. Now working in oils, you want to work with your dark colors to light. So I look for the darkest values in my reference photo. So I'm going to start off with a really dark gray, and I've mixed this gray with the Payne's gray, and that's a Winsor Newton Payne's gray, with a little bit of burnt umber. So I'm going to start off by going right near the top of his beak and his eye. Just get some dark colors in right on the top of his cranium here. And we can always lighten this up. It's more difficult to get something darker after you've already lightened it up. So one of the reasons why when you're working in oil you want to work from dark to light. I'm trying to avoid his eye area, the eye socket itself, because I don't want to lose the shape of his eye. Especially because he's gray and he has these dark eyes. So it's easy to get lost in that. I'm just going to look for all these really dark values. Maybe perhaps on the back here, where the back wing meets the wing in the foreground. We'll put some darkness right in there. Kind of follows right into the tail a little bit. I'll take some straight Payne's gray and bring that right into the tail, right within here. At first, these paintings don't look like much, and don't get intimidated. If you've ever wanted to try painting, don't be intimidated. Go out there, get a couple of brushes and some paints. Maybe start with some acrylics first, if you're a little weary of the oils. Or maybe even watercolor. Watercolor is a little bit different. Watercolor is less forgiving, more staining. So you really have to kind of be careful there. But yeah, try it. Don't be intimidated. It's all basic shapes and colors. When I hear people say, oh, I could never do that. I don't know how you do that. Really, it is. It's all shapes and colors. Don't be intimidated by it. Don't get me wrong. There is lots of work involved. Lots of research and learning, just like anything else. What is it they say? If you put 10,000 hours into something, you kind of are a master at it. I think we're always learning. That's my take on it. I'm going to take a little bit of raw umber. It's really a dark brown. I'm just going to add some raw umber right into these shoulder wings. And that's the top part of the shoulder where the smaller feathers kind of break off into the wing. And then there's some browns on the back. It looks like gray. Doesn't look like much yet. Never really does at the beginning, nor should it. Just shapes and colors. Then I'm going to add some burnt umber, which is a little bit warmer of a brown, right along the back here, right on the top of the back. Because even though he's, mostly gray, there are some hints of brown that you can see in their back and up into their neck. Now, when you get into the western states of the United States, there's a lot more varieties of Juncos, and they're a little bit more colorful. Some of them have brown heads, brown backs, rusty colored backs. So these videos last about, anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour. As far as painting time goes, there's a little bit of time allotted for introduction. But they're meant to be educational. If you have any questions about these videos or my techniques, you can always leave some comments and I'll try to get back to you. You'll be able to find these videos sometimes on YouTube, Facebook, my Facebook page, which is Studio Incognito, and that's on my Facebook, and you can find me as Vanya Noversa Viveris. And as I said before, this is part of a series called Backyard Birds and Blooms. So the final paintings that I've been doing for Backyard Birds and Blooms will be on exhibit at the Narrows Center for the Arts, and that's located in Fall River, Massachusetts on 16 Anawan Street. And it's free to the public. There's no charge to go to these exhibits in the galleries. It's really a nice venue. And go right into his little tail down here. And to his chest area. Now his chest and the breast area tend to be a little bit more light than the others. There's softer feathers, a little bit lighter in color. It's important is to get lots of colors, variety of colors on your canvas, so you have colors to pull from. It's like a little transitioning stage of the feathers from the neck, the head, back into the back. They tend to get a little bit warmer as it goes into the back. I watch them in my backyard. They're really rather cute. Very, very tiny, and as I said before, they tend to hop around. And when they sing, they have like, when they fly and sing, they have like a ticking sound. Now juncos have 1 to 2 broods a year. And when they have eggs, they tend to have, 3 to 5. Very rare will you find a brood of 6 eggs. That would be very rare. I'll take a little bit of the burnt umber and put it right underneath the tail feathers, just to kind of warm things up, just a hair, just a little bit right underneath there. And right into these smaller feathers over here as well. Yeah. They do migrate, but in the wintertime, these dark-eyed juncos, this variety, can be found in New England. They can be found in the woodlands, Sometimes in the suburban areas, if you have some feeders out, like I said, they like seeds. They do like insects too, but they love seeds. I'm going to throw just a little bit of, this is a gray that I mixed up before, and this is with the Payne's gray and some titanium white. Not much of anything else here, just a few spots on the belly. I'm going to kind of warm it up a little bit too. I don't want it to be so dark. So I'm actually going to take a little bit of crimson alizarin, just a tad bit on my brush here. I'm going to mix it up with some of the light gray that I have. Just a touch. Only because I want to see a little bit of warm reflection in his belly here. It's very, very slight pink to it. And maybe his beak as well. Their beaks tend to be, they say they're pink. You know, when I'm looking in my backyard, I tend to see like a yellowish pink. You know, maybe that's just how I see color, I'm not sure, but I'll throw some pink right in there. Right into his beak. Maybe a little bit of Naples yellow, because that's what I see. So right now I have some crimson alizarin mixed with a little bit of Naples yellow, and I'm just putting a little bit in the beak. Not much, just a little bit. Just so I don't kind of lose the shape there. About 17 minutes in, and we're kind of coming along here with the outline. He does have a little bit of, you know, a black, they tend to have a little bit of black speckle right on the edge of, right on the tip of their beak here. Right, very on the tip. I'm not going to put that yet. That's one of those fine details that, you know, don't get into details till the very end. That's the thing with the key to painting. You know? Don't let yourself get lost in the details. Now I'm going to get some straight Payne's gray, and I'm going to cut underneath the wing. And they have these, when you separate their wings and you open them up, they're layered. So they have like these short layers that overlap the longer layers of feathers on their wings, starting from their shoulder. They're short here, then there's a little bit longer ones here, and then the real long feathers at the ends of their wings. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to put straight Payne's gray right underneath here like this. I'm going to take a little bit of Payne's gray, mix it up with some French ultramarine, and maybe a little bit of the raw umber, and that's going to give me a really dark color. It's almost like an ivory black. Some people buy ivory black, some people mix it up. So, as you can see, it's really dark. But it's going to allow me to have color to pull from, so if I want to put some highlights in those wings. It's a little bit of blue there. All right. Just a little bit. Some blue and brown. It gives me a little bit more control as to what I want to do with it. All right. Then on the top part here, the top part of this wing in the foreground, I'm going to add a little bit more of the raw umber to the color I just mixed, that black that I just mixed. And I'm going to go right in here like such. And then layer those. Alrighty. And then I'm just going to lighten up this tail just a little bit here. Pull that right out. I'm still using the 1/4 inch flat. I'm very partial to flats. I don't know why. You know, everybody has their preference. Most artists have a preference as to what brushes they like. I'm partial to the flats. And maybe because it's, you know, my subject matter. Why I like those. A lot of portrait artists like rounds. Rounds are good for blending of paint on their faces. Keep all your edges soft, you know, little hard edges. I'm just cleaning up those edges there. And I want to clean this edge up right here. Now I'm going to take a little bit of, it's a very, very light gray. Very, very light. And I'm going to take this gray here and a little bit of distinction there. Right underneath here. And I'm playing the light against the dark. I have this term and I call it, you know, it's a love affair, constant love affair between the light and the dark here. You know, it's like one is always chasing the other. Once again, I'm going to go back in the opposite direction. Just gently pulling that paint. Gently pulling it in the direction in which the feathers are going. And he's starting to take form here. That's a cute little fella. I'm going to take some black and just kind of put in his legs before I lose track of where they are. I don't want to lose track of where they are. It's very, very easy. Very, very easy to lose that. There we go. Get one leg, and this kind of leg comes straight down. There we go, right on top of that perch. And then the other one that's in the background, you kind of see part of it. These little down feathers are covering some of it. And that one kind of comes right down in here, right over the perch. I know, I'm still using my flat here. As I said before, I'm very, very partial. And then no details on his feet yet. No. Nor do I want any. I'll leave that one alone yet because I'm not quite sure how I want to position his foot yet. Some big clouds out there on a sunny day, and it's fairly cloudy. So the light keeps getting a little bit darker, so my camera doesn't like to adjust very well. Okay. Before I start adding some real light colors, into his belly. I want to get a little bit more dark value there, so going in with the Payne's Gray, and right underneath here, I'm just putting some color in here, some black there. This painting, when I'm done, is probably mostly going to be a variety of grays. But you know, it's funny because in New England I see these juncos more often in the wintertime. And it's usually gray out. So that's one of the reasons I just decided to. I think the background's going to be gray. Okay. Now where he's perched, I'm not quite sure the color of the branch I'm gonna put there, but once again, you know, you're working dark to light, so I'm gonna start off with I'm gonna put just a little bit of the raw umber on this branch that it's perched on. It's kind of going straight across. You know, some people don't like that, but I have so many paintings that have angled perches. Why not do one that's straight across? So for my liking today, I'm making it go straight across. Maybe it's a little bumpy. I'm going to switch to a 1/2 inch. This is a 1/2 inch flat. It's a little stiff. One of my favorites. It's kind of old, worn out, fuzzy, as you can see. See how the bristles are all spread out. But they're great for just spreading the paint. And that's all I'm doing. Fuzzy old brushes are great for blending. And if I don't like this afterward, I can always change it. This umber is one of those colors that you can mess around with. All right, I'm going to go with I'm going to switch to a filbert. And this is a 1/2 inch filbert. This one also is kind of old and fuzzy, as you can see it. It's seen better days, and it's going to see even better ones. Every brush has use. All right. I like to use these when I'm making all these nice soft down feathers, because when you kind of press and pull. So I'm going to slightly start adding some whites, but I'm going to take a little bit of Naples yellow, warm it up a bit with some titanium white. I'm going to mix that up just a little bit. And as you recall, I had put a little bit of crimson alizarin in here mixed with some of the gray that I had already mixed up. So I'm going to start adding some warmth in some areas where I think there might be light hitting. So you just start pulling. And that's just enough warmth there, I think. I don't want to put too much there. All right. And then I'm going to take some of that light gray that I mixed up. And it's really a really light gray, almost white. And just start adding some variations. I might even switch off to a smaller brush, we'll see. I think I'm going to switch off to a smaller filbert. Let's see what I have here. Here's a really small filbert. So that's a 1/4 inch filbert. And this one's really soft and new, as you can tell. It's a little bit more chiseled and not frayed. So I'm just going to soften some of this out first. And all I'm doing is just taking it on the flat side of the filbert and just slightly gently touching the canvas and pulling, just to soften out all those edges of those brush strokes that I had before. There we go. Just to get some nice soft feathers underneath. I think I'm going to add a little bit more darkness right down here, down in the belly area, right in his abdomen, just so we can have some depth there. There we go. And then back into my light gray, maybe some white, maybe pull some white right here. This is going to be, look for your values, your lightest and your darkest values. So there's some really light values right up in where that gray meets the abdomen area. And then the same thing back here. There's little strokes of feathers, kind of overlap his leg back here. Yeah. And we can start adding some white up top here in the gray, just in little areas. So there's a little bit right up in here, right where his beak meets his forehead. And then same thing, there's a bunch of little fuzzy little feathers right in here. And that's important that we don't lose those. So I'm getting a nice chiseled edge of white on the tip of this 1/4 inch filbert. And I'm just pulling some little tiny loose feathers that are blowing around. There. There we go. And then I'm going to take a little bit of Naples yellow. And I had put some brown on the top of his back earlier. So I'm going to go back with a little bit of Naples yellow just in some areas and put tiny little strokes, just like so, variations of color, in the direction that the feathers are growing. They're coming down the back like this. And then I'm going to take a soft, dry brush. I can find one. Oh. This is a soft, dry filbert. Another 1/4 inch. And I'm just going to pull the dry brush and pull those feathers like so, just to soften them up a bit. There we go. And there's a little bit of darkness He needs more darkness right up here near his eye socket. Kind of goes from his nostril into the eye socket. So that black that I mixed up before with the raw umber, French ultramarine blue, and the Payne's gray, I'm going to put that right over the beak line right here, and kind of goes right into the bottom part of his eye, like that. And then a little bit right there on the back side of his head. And where I think I might have lost some of that darkness here, I'm going to go back in with some Payne's Gray and kind of cut down right in here like this. That's the back side of the other wing, the wing that's in the background. Yeah, I did lose some darkness here. There we go. That's a little bit. I'm a little bit happier with that. All right. Now, right now he doesn't stand out very much because it's not blocked in. Once I stop blocking it in with the background, the bird will stand out more. I'm going to go back over here where the eye is, and lost a little bit of that darkness there, so I'm going to go back and just add a little bit more. There we go. And there's a little dark spots here and there on his head, so I'm taking some Payne's Gray and going over that mixed gray that I had. The gray that I had on his head before had some warm brown in it. And now I'm just taking some little dark spots, giving some variations of color. Right around that neckline. It's a distinction. Some dark feathers as well. Maybe up into the chest area there. And he should be standing out to you more and more, hopefully. It's always hard to tell the lighting. I can't control the lighting. Lots of windows. That's the best I can do. I'm just going to make this go right up underneath his beak. Like that. And he's got a little bit of darkness right there. No, you can't tell, but I'm almost painting sideways here just so that you can see. If there was a way of hanging the camera from the ceiling, I wouldn't have any problems. But I can't. Alrighty. Now I'm just turning this just slightly just because I need to make a couple of fine lines on his tail. I want to be able to pull them. And I'm going back with a soft brush and just pulling those lines just so you get nice, smooth, soft edges. And if I feel that it's not dark enough, I can go back in between the light and just hit that with a little bit of Payne's Gray in between. Also, when you're painting, you know, you have to build up on layers as well. So sometimes, you know, you gotta let certain things just set for a bit and then go back to it. So that's what I'm doing there, just letting that set for a little bit. I'm going to take a little bit of raw umber, and on his tail here, there's a few layers of long tail feathers, so I'm just going to put a couple of indications there. That, and then I can enhance that by going over with a little bit of gray, light gray, right over the edges, leaving some variation in between. Alrighty. I'm going to pull that this direction here like that. Just gently soften that out. Alright. I'm happy with that. Now I'm going to take a soft, dry filbert. That's a small 1/4-inch filbert. It's slightly rounded at the top. And I'm going to soften out those little lines of Naples yellow that I put in on the back. And I'm pulling in the direction of which the feathers would be growing. And that just looks a little bit more natural. Then I could add a little bits of gray in here as well, right along the edge. So, and because these birds are mostly gray, you know, that's why it's important to add some other colors in there, browns and, you know, warm tones, warmer values, cool values and warm values, so you can pull all those colors out in the little feathers so you can see them. Right here, there's some yellow. There you go. Oh, he's just coming to life. We have about 15 minutes left. So I'm going to try to get at least, you know, some of this wing down here. And I'm still using this filbert here. Yeah, that's a little better. I'm more happier with that. All right, now I'm going to take some Payne's Gray and right in here, maybe a little bit of raw umber, just for this shorter shoulder wing here. And just pull that right there. Then there's layers in here, like that. I'm going to switch to my little 1/2 inch, a short 1/2 inch, or maybe a 1/4 inch. Let's do that. We'll do this nice 1/4 inch. This one's still has a nice chisel to it. I just want to kind of get this paint into the canvas so I can start pulling out these layers of feathers in the wings. Very important to have all those different layers. When painting in oil, you want to build up layers. Speaking of layers, you want to build up the layers so each layer is a little bit thicker than the previous. They call that thick over thin. It really is important. I put a little bit of Naples yellow toward the tail there. And then I'm going to put a little bit right up here. And now I'm going to start edging out those shorter feathers there. And then softening them out. Go back in with a filbert and soften those out. And I'm just pulling in the direction of the feathers. There we go. And if you feel like you lost some of that dark value, just go back in and put some more back in. Right now I'm using the raw umber. Just going back in that direction. And these feathers right here are almost coming in this direction like that. So once again, I'm softening that out, and I'm wiping in between. Each feather I'm softening, I wipe the brush in between. A little bit of this Naples yellow, and right up in there, like so. His belly's just not soft enough for me. I gotta soften that out a bit. And I'm still working with the filbert. So I'm going to start putting a little bit more highlight right in here. like that. Such. And still another dark line right in there. There we go. Yeah, I'm just going to lighten that up a bit right on the tail here. Yeah. Maybe a little bit more here. And all I'm doing is building up little layers on the tail. See that a little bit better. This little Junco's coming to life. Now I'm going to go into a, this is a micro filbert. You really can't tell, it looks like a flat, but it's not. It's a filbert. And I'm just going to put some color in the eye. I like to use blue when I'm doing the eyes, even though they are black eyes. But if I use black and try to put a highlight with it, it would look like a gray highlight, and I don't want that. So I'm going to take some Payne's Gray, a little bit of French Ultramarine, maybe a little bit of burnt umber. Not the raw umber, but the burnt umber. And that's only going to get a little bit of warmth. And I'm just going into the eye socket. They have the little beady eyes. And don't be cheap with the paint. If you don't put it on there, you can't work with it. Yeah. That's some good coverage. Alright, so now you can't even see his eye. But that's okay. Because that's how we are going to start pulling some light right out of there. And I think his head kind of comes up a little bit more. Yeah, when I initially drew it, I might have made his head a little bit too small, I think. It's great about painting and drawing. Yeah, nothing's written in stone. Well, like I said before, that these paintings that I've been doing on these art demos is part of a series called Backyard Birds and Blooms. And I've done quite a few paintings of birds. And it's been supported by the Fall River Cultural Council, which is a division of the Massachusetts Cultural Council. And when all the paintings are done, each year I've had an exhibit. So you were able to see them, except during COVID. The year of COVID, you know, I had to do a virtual exhibit, which is a little bit different, but, you know, it still worked. But now you don't have to do that anymore. So you can view these, you know, if you're locally or if you want to travel. You can come to the Narrow Center for the Arts. It's free to the public. They have a couple of galleries there. So they'll be on exhibit from December 27th to February 4th. And you'll be able to view the paintings from this year's demos and videos, in addition to some paintings that are still remaining from previous years. So you're all welcome to to come down to the Narrows Center for the Arts. On the second floor, there are some working studios, artist working studios as well. So if you stop in to see the exhibit on the third floor at the Narrows, stop in on the second floor, say hello to the artists. Some really talented people there. Lots more of artwork to see there as well. I'm going to throw in a little bit of this raw sienna, a little bit of warmth on the back here. I just want to have a little bit of warmth right back here. Just for some variation in color there. Soften that out a bit. Yeah. Now once again, you got to play that dark against the light. We have about 5 minutes left. So I want to kind of go in and put little things here and there. So maybe at the tip of the beak here, you know, put that little bit of darkness there. Gonna pull it right through. Right there. In his beak. And as I said before, you know, I probably wouldn't get to the background, but the background's going to be mostly gray anyway, like a snowy day, you know, when you look out and all you see is gray. And some white snowflakes here and there. Yeah, that looks good. We take some Naples yellow on the back. A little bit more here like this. Just little tiny indications of layers of feathers. Soften it out. Keep your edges soft. It's very important to keep your edges soft. Alrighty, so maybe I'll block in just a little bit of this, you know, with some gray. And we need some little highlights here and there as well. So let's take some highlights like this and right up on the back. There's a little bit of short feathers there as well. About 3 minutes left. I'm going to soften those out. Remember what I said, when you're doing the feathers, wipe your brush in between as you're layering them. There we go. Don't want to lose that darkness. Now I'm going down the bottom here. There are some layers here, so these feathers kind of go more on an angle. That. And pulling back one at a time. Keep them soft. There we go. If you lose some of that darkness, you can always go back in. All right, I think we're coming to a close. Like I said, you can see the final products either on my Facebook page, Vanya Noversa Faveras. Studio Incognito is the name of the page. Or you can, if you're local and you want to go to the Narrows Center for the Arts, please feel free to stop by, see the exhibit. It'll run from December 27th to February 4th. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them on either YouTube or my Facebook page. And just to block this in, I'm going to quickly kind of go in and add some grays just right around. Kind of the outline. And I'm just going to block them in. This is what we call blocking in. And that's just so you can kind of see him a little bit more. You can see him pop a little bit there. There we go. I'm going to thin it out just a little bit. And I can always highlight all the edges, again, like his beak and his tail. But I kind of just did a quick blocking so that you can kind of see the bird itself a little bit better. Now he's going to stand out, but this will be a lot lighter. But like I said, you work dark to light. So that was just so you can kind of get an idea of how he's perched. And I might just change that just slightly. Yeah. Sometimes you see something and you say, oh, you know what? I think I'll starts creating a little life of its own. And I think that's, you know, good enough for you to kind of see what it's going to look like. Be perched here. Yeah. And he's blocked in. Till the next time. So today's episode was a dark-eyed junco. This is part of a series called Backyard Birds and Blooms. And it has been in part supported by the Fall River Cultural Council, a division of the Massachusetts Cultural Council. You can find these videos on YouTube under Backyard Birds and Blooms. Or you can find them on my Facebook page, Vanya Noversa Viveras, and the page is Studio Incognito. Or you can visit the exhibit at the Narrows Center for the Arts, which will be on exhibit from December 27th, 2022 to February 4th, 23. So till then, peace.